Hi, my name is Stacey Abrams, and I am here to read you a couple of books. The first one we're going to read is called Lillian's Right to Vote. This is Lillian, and it's by Jonah Winter and Shane W. Evans. A very old woman stands at the bottom of a very steep hill. It's voting day. She's an American, and by God, she is going to vote. Lillian is her name. Let's see. It's a long haul up that steep hill. It's a long haul when you've been alive for 100 years. It's a long haul when you've lived the life that Lillian has and walked so far in her shoes. When Lillian looks up, and more than a blue sky she sees, it's more than a blue sky she sees history. Lillian sees her great great grandparents, Elijah and Sarah. They are standing side by side on an auction block. Sarah is holding their baby, Edmund. They are being sold as slaves in front of the very same Alabama courthouse where rich white men and no one else are allowed to vote. Lillian starts her slow climb. Though the sun shines brightly, Lillian sees a dark time from years long past. She sees her great grandpa, Edmund, now grown. He is owned by another man, forced to pick cotton from daybreak to nightfall, right here in this country where it is written that all men are created equal. He sure doesn't have the right to vote. In fact, he doesn't have the right to do much at all until after the Civil War, which will end slavery. As Lillian inches up the hill, past one neighbor's house and then the next, she sees her great-grandpa Edmund on his way to vote for the first time, thanks to a law that was passed in 1870. The law is the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which says that American citizens' right to vote shall not be denied or abridged on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Even though the law does not allow women to vote, great-grandma Ida is with her husband. Lila feels their dignity and their pride as they entered the courthouse for the very first time. But as Lillian continues, as the hill gets steeper, but that hill is steep. She sees what happens just 20 years later, right here in Alabama. There's her grandpa Isaac at the courthouse being charged a poll tax to vote, a tax he doesn't have the money to pay. So much for that 15th Amendment. So much for Grandpa Isaac's right to vote. Lillian pauses to catch her breath, hearing now the voice of her Uncle Levi. He is telling about those tests he was forced to take when he tried to vote. How many bubbles are in a bar of soap? Her uncle's lips go tight as he recalls being asked to name all 67 judges in the state of Alabama and being turned away when he failed to answer such questions. As Lillian pushes on, struggling to keep her balance, She sees a brave girl standing next to her mother and father as they try to register to vote. The year is 1920, and the 19th Amendment has just passed, a law allowing women to vote. The girl is Lillian herself, with her mama and papa. They are being chased away by an angry mob. There's Mr. Bentley, the barber, and Mr. McCory, who owns the ice cream shop. She feels the grip of her mother's hand as they run through the streets back home. And though today the birds are singing and people are smiling, Lillian sees in vivid orange and brilliant red the cross burning on the lawn of her girlhood home, set aflame by the same angry mob, just because her parents want to vote. This is something she will always see. Lillian stops in her tracks, unable to keep going. As she stands there, she sees herself trying to register to vote for the very first time. She sees the blank piece of paper on which she must write down a section of the U.S. Constitution, word for word, as it's being mumbled by the registrar. A test she could not pass. No one could. "Are you going to vote?" she asks a young man who passes her on her route. "Yes, ma'am," he answers. "You better," she says, and she means it. For Lillian sees the funeral procession for a man named Jimmy Lee Jackson, a 26-year-old shot by a policeman over nothing more than taking part in a peaceful protest. It is March 1965. All he wanted was justice and the right to vote. Looking up to the top of the hill, Lillian wonders how she'll ever make it. It looks so far, and she's so tired. Though her feet and legs ache with 100 years of walking, what fuels her ancient body is seeing those 600 people beginning a peaceful march from Selma to Montgomery. People who, though they don't know it yet, will be stopped on a bridge in Selma by policemen with clubs. All they want is justice and the right to vote. At the front is future Congressman John Lewis, whose forehead will always bear the scar from where he was beaten. As long as Lillian still has a pulse, she's going to vote. So she keeps on climbing. She keeps on seeing, this time, the second march from Selma. This march also ends on the bridge in a prayer led by the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., whose dreams of justice for African Americans are already famous. Wherever he went, he lifted people up with his words, and his words still lift up Lillian, who, seeing the top of the hill, is not about to stop. Footstep by footstep, she keeps on going. Just as the marchers from Selma to Montgomery keep on going through the cold and the rain, finally making it all the way to Montgomery on their third march, she sees them all: Martin Luther King, John Lewis, rabbis, priests, and 25,000 others. Lillian is there. She can still hear Reverend King asking how long they would have to wait for justice. She can still feel the power of his voice when he says, "Not long." And as she takes those final steps to the top of the hill, Lillian can still see how the Reverend King was right. For she can hear the voice of President Lyndon Johnson on her TV saying to America, "Every American citizen must have an equal right to vote. There is no duty which weighs more heavily on us than the duty we have to ensure that right. All of us must overcome the crippling legacy of bigotry and injustice, and we shall overcome." Before Lillian walks through the doors of the building where you better believe she will vote, she looks up and sees the same blue sky, brighter than any sky she's ever seen, that she saw on August 6th, 1965. That was the day that President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, the one law protecting all Americans' right to vote in every state and every town, the one law protecting Lillian as a full-fledged citizen of the United States. She enters the building, and as Lillian steps into the voting booth, once again she sees herself stepping into the voting booth in 1965 for the very first time. And she knows full well she would not be standing here today were it not for the people who marched and the people who died for her right to vote. Lillian touches her finger to the lever, and because she is a citizen of the United States of America, protected by the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Lillian pushes the lever. Lillian votes. Thank you. We've got one more book to read. This book is called A is for Activist. A is for activist, advocate, abolitionist, ally, actively answering a call to action. Are you an activist? B. B is for banner, bobbing in the sky, blowing in the breeze, 'cause you're not shy. C is for co-op, cooperating cultures, creative counter to corporate vultures. Oh, and cats. Can you find the cats? D, little d, democracy. More than voting, you'll agree. Dictators detest it. Donkeys don't get it. But you and me, we demand equality. E is for equal rights. Black, brown, or white. Clean and healthy is a right. Every place we live and play, environmental justice is on the way. F is for feminist. For fairness in our pay. For freedom to flourish and choose our own way. G is for grassroots. Sprouting from below. Sharing nutrients and the water's flow. Below the surface, we're all connected. Stronger together, we grow. H is for healthy food, a human right. Honeydew, jicama, nature's delight. Hummus, hot dogs, Havarti cheese. Hot dogs, yes, healthy hot dogs, please. And pizza. Indigenous and immigrant. That's I. Together we stand tall. Our histories are relevant. An injury to one is an injury to all. J is for justice. Yay for justice. Jia Jing Jiang, Juanita Jamal, justice for the janitors, justicia for all. K. Kings are fine for story time, knights are fun to play. But when we make decisions, we will choose the people's way. L. LGBTQ. Love who you choose, 'cause love is true. Liberate your notions for limited emotions. Celebrate with pride our links of devotion. M. Megaphones marching. Movimiento music. Hip hip hooray. It must be May Day. N is for no. No, no, no. Yes to what we want. No to what must go. No, no, no. O is for open minds operate best. Critical thinking over tests. Wisdom can't be memorized. Educate, agitate, organize. P. Peace march. Protest. Pow, power. Power to the people. Yeah. Q is for question. Questioning coercion, querying qualities, counter to false assertions. Radical Reds, the headlines say, ruinous rioters, the rumors spread, rabble-rousing riffraff. Really? S is for sun, solar. Superstar, stellar power, fuels all life, not just flowers. Energized homes, cars and showers. T is for trans, for trains, tiaras, tulips, tractors, and tigers too. Trust in the true, the he, she, they, that is you. U is for weekends. U is for workers' rights. Wait, that's not U. That's W. U is for union. Union, yes. V is for Vox. What? Did you say Fox? No, I said Vox. Did you say box? No, Vox. Rocks? Blocks? Socks? Vox. Vox of the people. Voice of the populi. Better go see the letter D. W. Wondrous world. Wondrous we. We cannot be free unless we delight in diversity. X is for Malcolm, as in Malcolm X. History's lessons can be complex. Remember Parks, remember King, remember Malcolm, and let freedom ring. Y is for you and for youth. Your planet, your rights, your future. Y is for yes. Yes, yes, yes. And Z is for Generation Z, the best generation yet. This has been A is for Activist, written and illustrated by Inosanto Niagra. Thank you all so much for listening to me read, and let's do it again soon. Take care.